Free speech is the big debate right now, and the poster child of all that is Joe Rogan. Does Joe Rogan have the right to say whatever he wants to say on whatever platform he wants to say? Can Joe Rogan yell fire in a crowded theater? Can Joe Rogan spread things that are not in the normal narrative that we're supposed to say about certain issues? Is free speech a constitutional concept? Are there limits on it? Or is free speech maybe even a biblical concept? What is the answer to that? Well, let's talk about that for the next few minutes. Hey guys, your friend Spencer here. Daily Wire's coming out with this big story right now saying that Rumble CEO has offered Joe Rogan $100 million for 4 years. Now, I don't know if you've been following this or not, but Spotify has removed over 100 episodes of the Joe Rogan podcast. And guys, I know I'm a Christian. I don't watch the Joe Rogan podcast. I mean, if he has an interesting guest on there that is into something that I'm dealing with, like for a Third M documentary, I guess I'll go wade through it, just try to get some information. And I have featured the Joe Rogan podcast on, I think, almost all of my documentaries, really, because he brings in a lot of very interesting guys, and that is, always relevant to what I'm trying to talk about. But love him, hate him, like him, lump him. Does Joe Rogan have the right to speak? Does he have the right to say whatever he wants? And that's the question everybody's asking. So all these platforms are fighting for Joe Rogan, and Spotify's given him I think a contract for over $100 million, big deal. And but now, because the Biden administration is pressuring Spotify to attack misinformation, they're removing like 100 episodes of this and counting. And a lot of people are fed up with it. Joe Rogan has tried to appease the mob, which you never can appease the mob. Don't even try to appease the mob. Double down on the mob. And, if the mob's on your front door, go out in the front door and get your grill set up and have a barbecue right in front of them. And don't ever try to appease the mob, because there's no way you can ever do so. But Rumble saying, hey, bring everything over here and we will give you $100 million for 4 years, which, hey, crazy. Wild rock star money, man. I want to introduce you guys to a book. This is a Prairie Fire Press. There's a book called American Crimson Red, which goes through and explains the history of the Baptists in America. Now, I want to tell you right now that if you guys did not have Baptists in America, you would not have free speech in America. Free speech is a concept that was brought on by the influence of the Baptists. Now, I know the Baptist historians are going to come after me for not giving every little tiny minute detail of every little thing in this video, but let's just suffice it to say that the Baptists influenced Jefferson and Madison in the early days through men like John Gunnow and others to have free speech. Now, here's the deal. Romans 16:17. Now, I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them. Now, back in the early days of America, you had the Puritans, and the Puritans were kind of Protestant Reformed types. And the Protestants and a lot of the Puritans believed that the Old Testament was still in effect for today as far as all the laws that were in there. There were laws about, if suffer not a witch to live. And that brought on things like the Salem witch trial, which should have never happened. Women were accused of all kinds of terrible things and were drowned. And I mean, they would put women in, they would tie like bricks to women and throw them into the river. And they say if she drowns, that means she was innocent. But if she floats, that means she's a witch. I mean, what kind of monkey circus is that? That's a disaster. And what was going on back in those days is that the people were forced to go to the state church. If you didn't come to the Anglican church, then you were a heretic and you were banished or flogged or punished by some way. And because they thought that, we have to force people into our religion. People do not have liberty to go believe whatever they want. We're going to hold the line. We're going to stand for this. And you have to believe what we believe or else you're going to be attacked like the Old Testament says you should be. And that they said this is not what the New Testament teaches. The New Testament teaches not to attack or not to put to death heretics or whatever. The New Testament teaches that you should just mark them and avoid them. Leave them alone. Okay? It doesn't say, if a woman's into witchcraft, you don't go burn her at the stake or drown her in the river. You just mark her and avoid her. And that was a New Testament concept. That's where you get liberty of conscience. That's where one of the Baptist distinctives is the priesthood of the believer. I can go believe whatever I feel God is leading me to believe. I can go get my Bible, interpret however I choose, and there's not a thing in the world you can do about that. Men like Roger Williams was in the Massachusetts Providence at that time, and he didn't believe in baptizing infants. And he had a lot of run-ins with the people of Massachusetts back in those days. So he was banished from the colony, went down to a place that we now call Providence, Rhode Island, started a city. And so back in those days, religious liberty was a very troubling thing. But the problem was that they said, okay, we want to be able to speak whatever we believe to be true. And that's what the First Amendment, that was the whole point. Because if you did not have freedom to preach the gospel, then you didn't have any freedom at all. If you didn't have freedom to speak, then you didn't have the freedom to worship God as you choose. Now listen, in America today, you have the right to believe in the flying spaghetti monster if you want to. And, everybody talks about how, they're putting Baphomets up in City Hall and stuff like that. Listen, I don't like it. I don't like it. But legally, the Church of Satan has the right to post that stuff. They have the right to put up their displays. And if you say that the Church of Satan does not have the right to put up their displays in City Hall next to the Christmas display, then if they don't have the right, then what's going to happen in your town whenever all the Muslims come in, and the Muslims are the majority, and they say Christianity's outlawed in this area now. You can't have any Christmas displays up, no nativity scenes, nothing like that. The whole thing should just be left alone. If you have a religion, believe your religion, practice your religion. And that was what the Baptists wanted in America. They did not want a state church. We don't want the church to be, we don't want the state to be Christian, because what it's going to become is going to become Anglican. And if you're not an Anglican Christian and you're a Baptist, then you're going to be persecuted by the state. It'll be illegal to not be an Anglican. And so what they proposed was just let everybody believe what they want. Just say, if you want to be a Methodist, Anglican, Baptist, whatever, just believe whatever you want. Just do not let the state censor speech as far as theological preaching. And that was the point. They wanted a Christian nation, but they didn't want a Methodist nation. They wanted a Christian nation, but they didn't want a Presbyterian nation, because if it was a Presbyterian nation and you weren't a Presbyterian, then that was illegal. That was the point of the First Amendment. And guys, when it comes to the whole deal, and I want to recommend this book, go to prairiefirepress.com, and Brother Beller is in heaven now. He's with the Lord. But this book right here, American Crimson Red, go buy that book. This thing is worth its weight in gold. This is a tremendous thing. Go get that book. And they didn't ask me to do this, but I just want to, because this thing is a blessing, and all his other books are good. Brother Beller was a good man. I knew him before he went to heaven. But the idea of free speech. Now, look, Joe Rogan's a left-leaning guy. I don't agree with Joe Rogan politically. I mean, he's a Bernie Sanders supporter. But guys, just let people talk. And here's, I think even Whoopi Goldberg should be allowed to spew her stupidity. What she said about Jews and all that was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Whoopi Goldberg's an idiot. Okay, but I think idiots should be allowed to talk. Let people talk. Let people speak. Let the war of ideas be fought. And people have asked me before, are you leaving YouTube? No, I'm not leaving YouTube. Why would I leave YouTube? YouTube's a good platform. It's got a lot of people on it. And they have their rules, and I get that. I just wish people would be allowed to talk more. Share your views. Share your views. And Joe Rogan, I watch the controversial episodes and whatever. Okay, I don't think it's like the end of the world what was said on there or anything like that. But I think people have the right to speak, because if Joe Rogan can't talk, then what's to say that Spencer Smith can't talk? If Joe Rogan cannot speak, then who else can't speak? Do you see how this kind of spirals to where you're like North Korea, and the only thing that's allowed to be on TV is what the state allows? You're only allowed to see what the great emperor wants you to see. That's censorship. That's tyranny is what it is. So Joe Rogan should be allowed to speak. I think even Whoopi Goldberg should be allowed to speak. because I want to be allowed to speak too. And that's what free speech is. Now, technically, free speech is about the First Amendment, about saying being able to criticize your government, and I get all that. But Joe Rogan, will he go to Rumble? I doubt it. It'd be crazy if he did. Yikes. I just want to warn you platforms that are censoring people, you're rolling the dice on your content creators. It's not a good thing. You can ratchet it down too hard and lose everybody. Not good. Hey guys, we love you. Thank you for watching this channel. If there's a red button below that says subscribe, that means you're not subscribed to this channel. So if you would please prayerfully consider that. Subscribe to this channel. Pray about that for 2 seconds and then hit the subscribe button, if you will. We're going to put out a lot of good content like this. We love you all, and hope you guys have a good day. Like this video if you will, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. Have a good day.